Welcome to Pablo Investigates. In today's episode, I'm talking to great guitarist and composer Ralph Towner. Of course, you know Ralph Towner from his work with Oregon, Weather Report, John Abercrombie, Azimuth, and lots of other great musicians and great bands. And he's just one of my absolute heroes on the guitar and as a composer and as the full package. I've had the privilege of working together with him and my trio on a few occasions. In 2021, we had an opportunity to play with Ralph again at Philharmonic Hall in Köln. So I used this opportunity to visit him in his hotel room right before the sound check. I was very, very happy that he took his guitar out for the conversation and showed me a lot of things that he was working on, original compositions, and also really taking me into his compositional process of what went down when he wrote those pieces. He showed me some exercises that he's still doing today that he has learned decades ago when he was studying classical guitar in Vienna. And he talked a lot about the influence of Bill Evans on his music. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'm very thankful to Ralph for doing this with me. If you like this podcast, please consider subscribing to this channel and leave a comment. I always read them and always try to reply to them. And if you would like to support this podcast even more, you can become a patron at patreon.com/PabloHeld. The perfect companion to this podcast is this little notebook that I've put out. It's the Investigation Notes notebook, and it has staff paper. You can write down anything that you like and that you don't want to forget in it. You can find this on my Bandcamp page. It's called the Investigation Notes notebook. All right, I hope you enjoy this episode, and let's keep in touch. As you know, I'm a big fan of your playing. I admire what you do, what you write, all the things you came up with.
Yeah.
And to me, it feels like there wasn't really somebody before you who did what you do. And I wonder, if Steve Grossman, came up wanting to play the saxophone.
Yeah.
He has his heroes.
Yeah. Right.
If Herbie Hancock came up, he likes Bill Evans, he likes Wynton Kelly. He has his heroes, and he has also already like a roadmap of what to do.
Yeah.
I don't think you had that in that regard because...
no, I had several roadmaps, as a matter of fact. I mean, the music I was exposed to on recordings, and I'm talking about 1945.
Right.
I was born in 1940. So I had two brothers that were in military service, and in fact, one was a dive bomber pilot and was shot down by 4 German planes in the Second World War and killed. He went straight into the ground. But I never knew him. I mean, I was 4, I think, when he.
Wow.
And I'd never really met him. I think I saw him. I remember seeing a little. I have two brothers that have wonderful collections of all the swing music and all the big band and Nat King Cole and Duke Ellington recordings.
Yeah.
They were real listeners, and they collected all these recordings. So I had those to listen to when I was from 5 years old on. And that one brother continued to live until he was 50. And he still was collecting all kinds of nice music. And so the records, in a way, I was hearing all the music very much like a European would. There weren't jazz schools. There weren't.
Yeah.
And we lived in a really small town in Oregon, in central Oregon, like 9,000 people, I think. So, but the music scene, as far as education, all the two elementary schools had like music departments that consisted of an orchestra, a chorus, and a band, and a marching band, and a sort of a concert band. So I started playing trumpet. I took lessons in the summer when I was 6 years old, because my father played trumpet. I had his old trumpet, and so I started on the trumpet when I was 6, and took lessons, and played in all these wonderful music venues in the elementary schools. By the time I was 9 or 10, I was playing in the bands and things. And but I heard all this music. I used to imitate Louis Armstrong, and then what was it? A lot of other Harry James, trumpet player.
Yeah, he was Miles Davis's hero also.
Yeah,
early hero.
So I had a lot of heroes from that kind of music. So I was able to improvise almost from the very beginning. It just came very naturally. I could do harmony, and my mother was a church organist, so she's always playing Bach. So it was cool. In my blood, just somehow, it made so much sense, the Baroque harmony. So by the time I went to university, I studied in the music school there, composition mainly, but mainly I was kind of a whiz kid at writing all the Bach chorales, and I didn't have to really review the rules because I knew when things were right. It just made such sense. So I'd been harmonizing things, since I was playing the little flutes in the beginners classes, the little plastic block flutes. But so I started getting interested in piano. My mother was a piano teacher, and I somehow was such a brat. I could imitate records and fool around on the piano. But in this small town, there were no, as I say, I'm just kind of a little phenom, So I got too much praise for too little production, I think. But by the time I was in university, then I started getting serious with the piano when I heard Bill Evans. Yeah. Simon. That all my big influence in jazz all went toward after a lot of time playing the trumpet and playing everything from Dixieland mainly and all kinds of different kinds of music. And in dance bands with grown men that I'd have to sit outside of the bar on the breaks because I was 12 years old when I was playing with these, or 15, I would think, when I was playing in this sort of dance band. But anyway, the piano didn't really grab me till I heard Bill, and that really caught my ear. I remember also being quite impressed with what's the piano player that he had kind of a hit with this. Oh God. I can't remember the name of the tune. Anyway, but Bill and that trio, with the bass and Paul's drumming too. That set a standard for this kind of jazz interaction. And I thought, oh, that's it. I got to learn how to play the piano. So my final 3 years of school, I was working on playing the piano, but I still didn't play quite well enough to work. Although I finally started, I finally got a few gigs after I'd been working at it for a few years, but when I was about, I don't know, just before I graduated. But the real thing that happened to me was I heard, in my final year of university, I heard another student who was actually a psychology student playing the classical guitar, and he played very well. He was playing some Bach or something. And it was so, I just loved the instrument. I thought, wow, this thing can play contrapuntal music. It sounds like a piano a little bit. And I thought immediately, well, I really want to play this instrument, but it would be a total mistake to just try to just do self-teaching, autodidactica like I did with the piano. And because I knew that to really play it, you'd need a strong foundation. And I asked where my great teacher was, and he's Vienna, right? In Vienna. Yes. So wherever that was, and I somehow hitchhiked and made my way to Vienna after I graduated.
Yeah.
And I was accepted at the academy, but I had to audition. I only had taught myself maybe 2 pieces.
Which ones?
I don't know. The one, I think the one that I knew was some Louis Milan thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But wasn't much of a piece. But they somehow could tell that I was a talented musician in a way, but it wasn't that clear. And boy, I had no money whatsoever, but I managed to squeak through a whole year on $400. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, wow.
And of course, the nice thing was the tuition was practically free. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the wonders of Europe.
Yeah. It's different in the States.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, you would have had to pay big tuition, and I just finally graduated, you know, with this sort of worthless degree in music composition. But so I studied with Carl Scheidt, this fabulous teacher, and every exercise, every technical detail, dynamics, and all that was all built into. You're always playing music, and most of the music we started with was Renaissance music, and not so much Spanish music, but more Renaissance music, and as beginning pieces, which seem seemingly simple, but to play them beautifully and perfectly, it really required a lot of musicianship.
Yeah.
And that was built into. You had a reason for every exercise. There weren't just things given out because
just for the
they
sake
were a
of
tradition.
exercise.
Just for, you know.
Can you? Is there certain things that you still do today that you can trace back to, in terms of exercises, that you can trace back?
Well,
to the
yeah. There was one that was very valuable for the left hand. I remember was this system. Jim. So it's just between, but then you go. But wow. the variations is more important. Is this where you're playing? Basically, you're going.
Yeah.
And that's very legato.
Yeah.
Now that you can do the top when you and you combine the two by like but you don't release the trick is not to release. Now, each note is still very legato.
Yes.
Very legato, but it's not like that. It's not that.
It becomes one.
This is very difficult to do in the beginning.
But you're saying it's very difficult to do, but how it looks like it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, but the sound, then you switch. Then it's a little harder. But okay, the secret hiding in this, it's even more, is the ability to make no breaks. So just listen to maybe that one, and listen, make sure that. Oops, I touched it. Okay. See, and so after that's done, your hand gets really. Then the most important thing for me is not.
Yeah.
I have this the staccato is, and then the legato is the most. The timing so that it's. And most players, even quite good classical players, you hear you hear the tone stop between us.
Yes.
And the reason, because my ear is attuned to wind instruments and also the piano, which the piano is to do a legato is the timing. You don't have to time both hands quite as well. But to make the guitar not sound like a, and I remember one little thing is when they weren't playing very good, not playing a good legato. He would say, "Well, it sounds like a 6-year-old girl singing, breathing between every note."
Yeah.
And when some and that's one of the main differences in my playing from a lot of classical players. I mean, because my ear is attuned to, in order to really play a good legato, you have to will it to happen. You want it to hear it. You want to hear it. If you're not listening for this sound of, if that isn't your goal, la la, but because it's music. But if you're just interested more in the notes that happen, that's only one aspect. But the real technique to make something, and I always wanted listening to sound is just like a piano, because that's the only thing I listened to was piano players. I didn't ever listen to guitar players.
Never.
No, Julian Bream was my model in terms of finally a classical guitarist that transcended the sort of Spanish thing and these wonderful things he did. So he was a real guiding light in showing that it could be done.
Yeah. He was able to find a lot of sounds in the guitar, right?
Well, it isn't just the sounds. Yeah, I mean that you control that too. A good guitar is usually, if you want a bright thing, it's down here. And so that's standard on the guitar, and Bream used that to real extremes. But
what are your favorite recordings of him?
I mean, of course, his most famous record was what was it? 20th Century Guitar.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah, and basically everything he did, and a lot of his. And I studied a lot of. We had a lot of Dowland music, a lot of Elizabethan music in Scheidt. And so
he recorded a lot of that, yeah.
Well, it wasn't his recordings as much as that's what we studied. That was the.
Oh, I see.
Renaissance music, and including the Dowland and all the Elizabethan. So, but the thing I used to do when I finally got a nice tape recorder, and this is after I'd moved to New York and I was already working. But the thing to compare, you always have your models, So my model, as far as the guitar, I had just this one checkpoint. I would play a Bream record, and I'd record myself, and I'd record myself just playing, and then I would flip back and forth between, just to make sure that I was hearing somebody that sounded as good as Julian Bream, to get myself to sound that much, to the point where you didn't think of it so much as a guitar. Yes. Of course, it is a guitar, it's a beautiful instrument, but this is my whole. I would say this is my biggest concern about playing, and when I hear somebody play that, I can hear whether or not they've got a good enough ear, where they're transcending this horribly difficult, stupid thing with these squeaky strings, and to make it sound as close to very good, close to. Let's see, who's the great some great pianist, but I love. I'm getting so old, I'm forgetting names. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
My wonderful Italian classical piano player, he's done a lot of Chopin and things.
Arturo Benedetti Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's like another. Those are the musicians I try to emulate on playing the thing. I don't care if it's a guitar. For me, this is my little traveling piano.
Yes.
And because I don't want it to sound as difficult as it really is.
Yeah, and you succeed.
And I want to have people completely lose track of that. About, oh, what a nice guitar, or this or that. We get so absorbed in the music, like I am, and so the writing is very important. That's another thing, is being a real composer. I mean, I have a real knack, I think, for finding a motif in a from just when you're playing around with something, you find something that's not just only a nice collection of sounds, but finally you find the thing that jumps out and seems to telescope into a whole piece and a whole story, really, that you follow the line. So I think the better you get as a composer, the more you're able to spot identify something has this potential for development, and it's more than just a nice, pretty collection of sounds. So it's easy to get lured into just writing something because it sounds kind of pretty. This is not the motivation for writing something for me.
Yes. Yeah.
And of course, I could say it should be for everybody, but all the pieces that everybody really likes are usually well written, even if it's a nursery rhyme.
Yes.
And
what is the latest piece that you've written?
Oh, see, well, I'm playing a lot of the latest ones. Well, here's what I'm not playing, but this isn't the latest one I've written, though. But I dug it. It's not recorded anyway, but it's a nice thing anyway. But it's a...
What's the name of that piece?
It has no name.
Okay.
But it has a lot of my favorite chord.
Yeah.
But this sounds kind of operatic.
This very singable and lyrical quality. It doesn't have to be only nice sounds, but there's something that the melody connects all of these beautiful colors.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're written at the same time. I mean, just the melody. I mean, this the melody is so simple. when I start with. And then this is nice. And then. So there's the end of it. That's just then to play on this thing for a while. And then around on that part. And then playing on these changes. And then you get down to this, I love this part, but anyway.
Can you play that A7 sus 4 flat 9 again?
Oh, ouch, I'm on.
It has like a dominant thing.
What is the?
With the flat 9, but it's sus and I think also a major third in da.
Oh, this thing. Oh, yeah, this is this one. No. Yeah. That's in fact, this is kind of the germ of this. So I have another tune that's built. There's this. Throw that in a little bluesing. But anyway, that comes from. So this chord is like I said. Oh, I might as well use it again.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, of course.
This voice, I mean, it's so special.
But how do you find colors like that?
Just looking around. Eventually, I'll find something, and it generates a melody. I mean,
yeah.
And this happened to be a very, very fruitful thing. Okay, now this is I didn't want to just do and this is one of my favorite things is minor chords over minor triads over There's another I find a lot of things on that, but I know that sound, and there's sometimes when I got that far. Now I wanted to not to do something like this. Something too bland, but
Yeah.
see that really, and plus the no. And the whenever there's a handy open string, and I'll use it if it does, and it does something wonderful for this.
Yeah.
That quite a bit different than so. If I just, that's nice, but for some reason, I said, "Wow, what is that?" But
Yes.
but it's not any new note, but it's just a strange. That happens just sliding around, finding things. But
Okay.
and then the next decision I make. Like that, just
Yeah.
okay. There was another thing. I was it. Oh yeah. Then when it repeats it, it does it again. So that sort of changes just a little bit, but just enough to say everything's always something you want. Makes your eyes open a little wider, you know. But
Yes.
something has to always happen. I mean, this just, you never just, you know.
There's never an autopilot. Like even if compositional autopilot. I mean, even if a part repeats, there will be one little detail. That
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
always
You
have
seem to
that.
find that. I'm really, I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But that's what goes into it, and I hear that in all your pieces. Like, wow, they seem immensely complicated, but they're beautiful too, though.
Thank you.
The thing is to try to stay in touch with what you consider to be beautiful, you know. And it could be really ugly to somebody else. I mean, it's quite possible. But they can't dispute your honesty about it if you're writing exactly, and you're making these decisions really for musical reasons, not for let's say, like, oh, this could be clever right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because every time you do that, I mean, you get caught
Yes.
red-handed.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes an audience is even they can sense when something is, you're being patronizing in a way.
I'm curious, Ralph. When you compose, do you ever think about the composition? About the blowing part. While composing. Like, I want to play over this, or is that something that you think about later? Like, what do I actually?
Well, some of them, it's obvious what this one needs to be played on. This one. But some of them actually hold up just as what's okay. This is I'll play this tonight too. I like this. This is a very new one. It's not recorded either, but this is very classical sounding. But it's that's it. If we could end there, it's just the written. It's all written. But I've decided, gee, I could play, but what? I finally found the simplest way to play on it was start out with. It's still playing the form, but. The chords. So that's a nice piece.
That's a nice piece.
Yeah.
Wow. What's it called?
So I finally came up with the what is it? At First Light. So,
At First Light.
Yeah, just because this thing is like a little carillone. What do you call it? It's important in this. Now I have to make sure that I stop this note because this.
It interferes with the.
I don't want that. Where is it? Yeah, it's an E and M. So I stick this down here and like.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
But so I do this, but I used to just play it like this. With these three with the thumb.
Yeah.
With the bass. And I finally, after fiddling, I realized, oh no, and also, another thing about playing this thing is to be able to, with all the fingers, including the little one, all 5 fingers, play a note that sounds exactly the same quality.
How do you do that?
They have to be filed perfectly.
Okay.
So that's why you're always filing. But I have really strong nails. But then you have to use your ear because. Whoops, I didn't. But nobody uses the little finger, but I do that because I have these 5-note chords sometimes. And you normally hear this all the time. With the pick, you hear. Whoops. Instead of. See. What am I doing? But just that's where it becomes like a piano.
Yes, absolutely.
So instead of everything always, there was another thing pointed out very early on, like guitar players are arpeggiating all the time. You hear this all the time. Too much. One reason that happens is because is they want to bring out this note. But you should learn how to play a chord and then
stop it.
But can you hear that?
Bring out all the voices.
But all done at the same time, you know. That's the trick.
Pianists also practice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just that's the reason I sound like a piano player. I mean, that's where all my jazz influences come from piano, even from Herbie and
Yeah.
Post Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that it's the guitar, I found worked my way. So somebody who wants to sound like me has to have kind of by the time I put all these different things together, each sort of instrument or even discipline, or whatever you would call it, when I would study the guitar, I did not go near a piano for like 3 years. Mm-hmm. And even though I was getting quite accomplished sounding like Bill, but then I dropped it, just to learn how to play this. And I realized in order to really build a technique that measured up to what I heard in the piano playing, it just, you couldn't go off on a tangent and be, not, to study with a real master who's a master musician, but a master teacher with great, and he spoke German, so I learned the whole guitar in German, in Viennese German. So I did speak German there for quite a while, but my first words were things like, du bist faul, du bist fleißig, sehr brav.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he was also quite funny. But he wasn't a confident player himself. He did in the practice room and teaching. He was he played well, and but he had nerves when he played in the concerts.
How about you?
Well, I learned slowly not to be nervous, and I kind of got used. I noticed that the COVID, what happened after we couldn't play any concerts for years or so, big spans of time, especially after the big longest break, which was a year at least. When I finally got a concert, I realized I'd forgotten how to perform, or what it was like to play in front of a bunch of people, and it was distracting, and my mind was all over the place. I kept thinking things like, "Oh, that wasn't very." And so finally, I had to relearn how to play when a bunch of people are watching or listening, hopefully. And so I had a great concert in Berlin. That really makes me feel good.
Good.
But should always go out with the feeling, oh, this is really fun. I really want to hear this.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's something about the way it sounds in a theater when it's good, or even a club if the sound is good. But if you can capture the audience, just a few notes, really, they will breathe with you. They won't be worried. They won't think about you. So that took quite a while. But I never was that. I remember being awfully nervous on classical concerts, having to play something that everybody else has played.
Yes.
And that was like, oh God, I don't want to go through this. So I made my mind up quite early not to do many classical concerts.
Yeah.
And I still play some of the pieces. I have a whole library of pieces that I used to be able to play, but that I found my niche. It's this thing of being a composer and a real jazz musician and an improviser, and but trying to honor the incredible disciplines and musical level that classical playing demands, really. It's probably also because so many people play the same pieces too. So you're always being compared to. But the only competition I'm really doing is an internal thing of trying to improve, and the competition is not to get lazy the way you play.
Yeah.
And I'm a really lazy person, and I can like slip up sometimes. And something about the COVID thing, being locked up, I practiced more than I had for a long time. And I got better, and I thought, wow, what a concept. You practice, you'll get better. And I was being too loose, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the solo thing is really, it's the most difficult, and it's the most, but you get to hear.
Yes, I'm so impressed about how self-sufficient you are when you play alone. Like, you never miss anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to include the concept. I love bass players. LaFaro I really loved, and Peacock was my favorite duet.
Yeah.
And Gary knew everything about it. He studied all the tunes and he just threw himself into this music that I was writing, and he was writing. I mean, he wrote some really interesting things. So that was a great duo. But so when I'm playing, I'm making references, but like the kind of bass part I'm playing on these pieces that do have a bass part, and of course the middle ones are really important. All the movement and all the inside voices. That really comes from and originally from Bill, hearing how Bill played, and learning how to play with the left hand like Bill, and anyway, the pianistic part of it anyway. But when I'm playing, I'm trying to imply more than one person's playing, because they are different parts, There's alto and soprano and all that, and a lot of my pieces you can just extract them and make an a cappella choir thing out of it. And because the voice, if you follow the inside voices, they don't just go parallel,
Yeah.
And so that's an important thing that's part of my musical training, maybe, or part of my musical instinct. But so that I pay a lot of attention to, and that's really made possible on the classical. That's why the classical guitar is so interesting to me when I heard it. Hearing each note separately, kind of, for how they fit together. I don't know what it was, but
you started to play with Jimmy Garrison. You told me.
Yeah, I did. I had a gig. It might have been 1968 or 69. It was a jazzmobile.
On the station wagon, you told me.
Yeah, exactly. It was on a trailer, and it was every summer they tow this trailer with the piano on it and sound system, and tow it up to Harlem and park in the street in the middle of Harlem.
Yeah.
And you would play.
So it's Jimmy Garrison, you, and who else?
Oh, let's see. The first one, Dave Liebman did one.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first sax player was who? No, the first sax player in the first gig with Jimmy. Jimmy's band was, what's his name? Argentinian guy with the big hat. He did the music for Last Tango in Paris. That was his name. I can't believe it. So he got quite famous from this.
I don't know.
It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Somehow. But he was very famous anyway. But then a drummer, I think, was something like George Brown, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But who I think moved to Europe, and I never saw him again. But yeah.
What kind of material did you play?
We played Jimmy's stuff, and it was all blues,
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy thought he had invented a new writing technique. It was always a bunch of chicken scratches. And then he says, and he goes like this, tap, tap, dweep, tap, tap, the dweep. And it was just a blues. Anyway, I don't know what we played, but we had a whole concert. And Pointed, he loved that band. That was great.
Mm-hmm. But he also played with Elvin. I listened to that record.
Yes, isn't that weird? But that was Elvin's idea.
Was it?
Absolutely. Elvin loved organ. He loved his, I can play with that band. We were on the same label.
Yeah.
And so he proposed to Maynard Solomon, who's the president of Vanguard, And I said, okay, fine, you can do anything, because he left us alone. I mean, he says, well, you guys know what you're doing. So we would produce all our own records of Vanguard, all 9 of them.
Yeah.
And it was it was a good learning experience in the studio. But that thing with Elvin was just a one-shot deal. We were gonna we had to plan it ahead and said, oh, we got to keep Elvin playing all the time.
Yeah.
So we just sat down, and Elvin never got a chance to get off the drums, and we just pounded away. And I said, oh God, what if he doesn't sweat, you know? But he picked up that first stick, went. Anyway, he loved Colin Walcott. He loved our drummer.
Yeah.
And so I would like, in some cases, we would do trios or quartets, minus one of us, minus me sometimes, and I'd go back and write the next tune for the next take.
Wow.
And then we'd do that. We'd play that. And
wow.
So it was already thrown together, but
how did it feel to play with him?
Well, deafening, really. You could hardly hear it, you know, and it didn't work that well.
You think so?
Well, it did finally in the recording. But,
because I think it sounds great on the recording.
Yeah, it ended up being okay, but it was hard to hear the guitar. Anyway, I played the piano a lot on that one.
Yes, you did. But you weren't separate. I mean, you had to be separated with the guitar.
Yeah, only distant. Like, we didn't have anything in between. They didn't put up barrier. The engineer was in that case. He didn't know what to do either.
That's very loose. Wow.
Very loose. We always had that studio to ourselves, and I don't think we had something to put in between. There must have been some kind of baffle. Whatever. Anyway, we had a good time though, and then Elvin was a big drinker, and his wife wasn't around, so he was living it up, and he would disappear sometimes for a week, but he was okay. I mean, but anyway, he was such a lovable character, and he really loved to play, and loved playing with that band, that whole record. And so when we were finished and he was tuckered out, we had done it, you know. We had played Elvin into the ground, somehow, you know. He was happy. So he and Colin went out to a bar just down the street and just got plastered. And
Bill Evans came up quite a bit whenever we talked. There was Bill coming up, and now again. I'm wondering how you incorporated specific things from recordings of his, and or if you can narrow down what you've learned from him and how you incorporated it on the guitar. And
okay, it's just a simple thing. The most simple thing is the left hand. How to move the left hand in the chords and connecting all the voicings, and the efficiency of just moving one note and having it, you know, like if you're doing on the left hand, you just move one finger, and you would have that go from the seventh. One thing I noticed was the reharmonization of stuff that I like. But that's what I did with Peacock, and I lived in Seattle at the same time for years. I moved out there. I left New York and moved to Seattle to be near my daughter, basically. And there was Gary living in Seattle. He had left Japan, and he had started to play the bass again. He was teaching. And we hooked up, and that was it. And we would spend hours, days, you know, years together in Seattle. But hours just at my place, just reharmonizing tunes, writing new tunes, and just living, you know. So the bass is that, but this whole thing of efficiency, while the bass is playing in another part and not doubling it all the time.
Yes.
And but anyway, just getting completely immersed in harmony and the way things move, and of course, you know, applying to the piano, to the guitar.
Yeah.
And so basically, so and of course, you know, Gary was playing with Bill.
Did you ask him a lot of questions about that time?
Yeah.
And about their process?
Well, their process, yeah. I think, I'd heard a recording of Bill working out the chords, a tune with LaFaro.
Yes.
And I'm really shocked at how
That's my favorite
simple,
right?
simple, yeah. Mm-hmm. But how they weren't that decisive about it. And when it was funny, I was expecting, because I had done the same thing with Gary, with it, lots of things, with my tunes, with other tunes, not just as standards, but I expected it to be more him to be more complicated about it but they had a way of working it out, but they had to work a lot on things together.
Mm. Did you have a personal interaction with Bill at some point?
Yeah, I did a little bit, not much. I kind of didn't want to disturb this the fact that he was so important to me, his music. And I didn't even want to get involved. And I heard it here it was difficult to have a friendship with someone who, anyway, I didn't want to mess up what this guy's music had done for me. So anyway, he knew he'd heard me and we'd met. In fact, he actually opened for Oregon once, solo. Mm-hmm. But, and that was a great thing. Because here I am, and we're doing our sound check, which was the most laborious sound check Oregon always had. Took us an hour at least, minimum, with all the instruments and the drums and the microphones. But so Bill showed up. He got called to replace John McLaughlin, who was going to open solo, and John copped out somehow, and. So they called Bill, who was at a racetrack, and Bill says, yeah, I'll open. And so Bill came rushing over. So we're in the middle of the sound check. So here comes Bill Evans himself, and comes rushing over to me at the piano, says, Ralph, listen to this. And he sits down, bam, right next to me. And he starts playing this unbelievable, really completely atonally incredible thing.
Was it a chord or what?
No, it was like an intro to a tune or a tune. I don't know. It was amazing. Just start playing. Listen to this, Ralph. Hey, Ralph, listen to this. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my watch and saying, we hadn't finished the sound check. And I finally had to say, Bill, Bill, I'm sorry, we got to finish our sound check. So I kicked Bill Evans off the piano and sit down, and we finished our sound. And if you would have told me a couple of years, few years before, any time, or especially many years before, mm-hmm. that I was eventually going to have to kick Bill Evans off the piano so I could finish the sound check. Yeah. So I thought, wow, this is like beyond belief. So we had kind of and we did play opposite the Bill Evans trio, especially in the last, with the wonderful trio, his last one with Mark. Mm-hmm. So by then I knew everybody else, this is years later. And I could tease, I stuck my head in the door of their dressing room and teased them about these funny little uniforms that Bill had made them wear. All wearing the same blazers. And
yeah.
There's something.
There was never a musical situation where you would play the guitar or...
No, it was sad, I wish he would have played some of my tunes, but I somehow, we never did connect that directly. But he was a difficult person, and it was with the drugs and everything. Mm. Anyway, I was off in this incredible world of writing my own music, trying to go beyond.
Yeah.
But, that's a strange thing with Bill Evans. So we knew each other, and he knew my music, so... Yeah, it's just amazing. All these people, and the musicians, how musicians know each other, and the connections you have with people you only see maybe once every 2 years.
Yes.
And then when you see him, it's like you're old buddies. I mean, but that at one point in New York, we were all living in Manhattan, all in a real close perimeter of everybody. One point, all the guitar players were like McLaughlin, Schofield, Abercrombie, me, a couple other guys, and then Chick, and we all lived within a 4-block radius in Manhattan.
Wow.
And always playing together and hooking up. And
what kind of stuff did you learn from working with Abercrombie together?
Well, we would just, I would write a little bit more than him, but he would write. But no, we would just get together and jam like standards but new tunes and just play like crazy all the time. And we were like we were only a block and a half away. And we would go on these long tours of Europe and come back and go hang out the very same night we arrived. And at one time we had played in Uncle Post Carnegie Hall, and this horrible place that everybody played. And what's that? Joachim Kuhn was there, and Joachim was that funny guy too. I mean, anyway. So we hung out with Joachim, and right after the gig was over. Then John and I, then about 3 days later, we were back home in New York, and we said, let's go out. So we went down to 7th Avenue South just to hear Michael Brecker, I think, and some other guys playing. And there was Joachim Kuhn, and he sees Abercrombie and I together, and he says, my God, you guys must really like each other. He could not believe that we would have spent nose to nose in the car, for like 3 weeks, and then that we would hang out in Europe.
That's cool.
Yeah, we were really good friends. Yeah.
But it's audible in the music. It's very close.
Yeah. I mean, it was. Yeah. Well, he was special. We just had a special thing. Electric guitar and guitar. 2 guitarists is also pretty difficult. But he played so differently. But he could play really good bass lines and comp. With his, he'd do a little finger style for his. He would sound like a Hammond organ though. He would.
Yeah.
But so he liked the same kind of music. We had the same taste in music and piano players, and Jim Hall was his favorite. But we had this similar taste in music and this understanding of the piano music and the piano trios, and he loved the Bill Evans trio. But all things were really happening then. I tell you, everybody played with everybody else. I mean, it was really a wonderful experience. I mean, I somehow wound up on a Weather Report record, and that's how far out it got,
I love that track so much. And you told me it was just you practicing the song, and they
and then Joe had enough sense to say, leave that. He says, don't turn the thing on the red light or he'll fall apart. He won't play with shit. He says, just let him keep playing.
Yeah.
I said, keep recording, says Joe. And so Joe has his own version. He did an interview of all the music he recorded. Yeah. And of that recording session, and he remembers every detail of everything. And we hung out. One day I had a chance to hang out for a whole afternoon because we were in Norway. We had on the same festival, and just he and I spent a whole long afternoon and hung out, and he's so excited. And then I went to hear him play because I didn't play till the next night with one of his special syndicate bands, and it was unbelievable, Okay, so I listened to the whole concert. It was just like tearing things up. It was really great. Anyway, it's in a little theater, and so I would, I guess I'll go back and say hi. But just as I'm going there on the little sideway sort of hallway to get backstage, here comes Joe the other way. He says, man, I can't believe you stayed for the whole thing. And he was like really touched that I would stay and listen to the whole thing. And wow. Yeah, I was happy to get in for free. But so he had another great side to it, a very gentle side.